Oi, what's up? It's Demented, and today I have another retrospective of one of the, I believe, week 2 games that is a little bit late because as I'm recording this, we're literally going into week 3, and I meant to get this out a little bit sooner, but if you saw on Twitter, I wanted to kind of be a little bit more spacious on some of these uploads, especially the reviews. However much I was actually loving doing the reviews, it was really fucking stressful to do it every day at the exact same time and try to have as little inconsistency as possible. I will still try to get some semblance of consistency, but what that is, I will not know up to this point. And if you don't know what a retrospective is, I've done 2 of these videos before. One on the upset between the Shock and the Outlaws, and the other one on Dragons versus Chengdu. Both were pretty solid videos in my opinion, and if you want to, feel free to go watch those. But in this one, this is going to be a little bit weirder because this one isn't really as much of an upset and more of a looking back, why is Uprising doing as bad as they are right now? Because currently, at least current day, which is the 30th right now, the morning of the 30th, let me be more specific, that they have up to this point only won a single map, and God fucking help them for trying to pull this shit off without Soon, because I could tell just how much Soon really mattered to this team in terms of the compositions they run and just overall synergy wise, I'm assuming. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. So I wanted to start off on Nepal Shrine, which was the first map to kick us off. This Koth overall was really fucking hard to watch. If you aren't aware, it was a 200-0. This entire fucking series was completely, there were a bunch of times that Uprising looked like they were very conscious in how they were playing and that they were very competitive, and then the rug just got whipped out from under them as soon as they thought they had something going, which was really unfortunate to watch, but it is what it is. I guess to go a little bit further into this, I really like to glance back at these VODs to see in particular what specific teams do that are wrong in terms of kind of drawing my own conclusion about them, and then giving my conclusion that I came to you by kind of going on a play-by-play basis. I did this a lot more in the Chengdu versus Shanghai as opposed to the Shock versus Outlaws, but ultimately I think the outcome will be the same. So as I said earlier, let's start on Shrine. So immediately what I saw on Shrine was that Uprising was starting on more of a bursty dive with Sombra and Echo, and not really opting for something like a Tracer, as well as a very stable backline with, I believe, Brigana, and it kind of set a really bad tone for me because and you'll see this throughout the rest of the series, that they seem to really not understand the compositions that they were on, and just how bad they were into what the other team was playing, and were really bad about swapping, but needless to say, we'll get to that later. So they are running this bursty dive as opposed to Fuel's Sim May Brawl, which has kind of been expected considering that they don't really have a hit scan, so you're not really expecting too much of Kree play. But what really stood out to me was how hesitant Uprising was in the first fight, because they were you're playing for this really bursty dive with Sombra looking to get a hack, and then Echo stickies beaming. Someone has to die through all those combos, but they hesitated so long that the Fuel were literally able to break their Sim TP from spawn, get it back, and TP onto the Uprising's backline. holy fuck, how long does it take you to commit a dive? The second fight, Uprising tried to do literally the exact same thing, but they worked a little bit faster. We're actually able to get a dive off, but due to the positioning of the fuel, I believe they positioned around Elephant and more on the left farther side of point, and made it to where when the dive did happen, it got hard punished. And also throughout all of this, I was watching a lot of On 37 Sombra. Leaves a lot to be desired in my eyes. In the next fight, Fuel used Window to immediately zone out even the slightest opportunity for Uprising to really get a solid dive off. And at this point, the point is at like 70%, so they're already like reaching for anything. But they hesitate again after the window so long. Another backline TP comes through and just annihilates the backline and demolishes any chance that they had of coming close to even like being competitive on this map. And as I said, when this fight was taking place, the point was at like 70%, but because Uprising started investing ults, this quickly became the last fight easily. Uprising got a few touches in towards the end with like Faith's Rally, for example, really able to at least give them something to go off of. But as soon as Repel got another window, because of how long the fight took, the retake was feasibly impossible for them, so they 100-0'd first point. And looking back at Shrine in particular, this was just a comp difference, which I might say a fair amount of times throughout this whole thing, but I don't think I would be alone in saying that you just can't run the comp that Uprising were trying to like brute force into a sim brawl. It just doesn't fucking work. But whatever the fucking coaches are telling him, dude, sure, whatever, man. Now moving on to Sanctum, the second map. Fuel still stick to the Symmetra Brawl, which is fine, and I think Uprising were like trying to be like, okay, we can still match them on the Brawl, we got this shit. Except they play it like dog shit, and they run a Brawl with Sigma, which we've seen before. We saw it most notably from the Mayhem, was the main team to whip it out and kind of introduce it to people, which in my eyes is completely fine. If you can make Sigma Brawl work, fine, that's your thing. But where I really got confused is they were playing it with a Doomfist, and that you have like too many people that want to do too many different things. Kree can be very versatile, can be close enough, like when he's in close range, he can flash, he can fan, he can get a lot of damage out. And I mean, same thing with Doom. At close range, he can punch to walls, he can uppercut, he can actually utilize his abilities, as opposed to Sigma, who doesn't help anyone in this fucking comp anymore, and also on top of it all would rather stay and poke back as opposed to being up in the front lines with the Ryan. But pretty much Boston played right into their hands for first fight, and it was, I believe they got a really quick pick at the very beginning, but that quickly diminished. It was not even close. But anyways, going on to the second fight, that both windows came out almost immediately, and I mean, I don't know why, but again, Uprising just try to like destroy the cranium of Fuel by running headfirst into them, because they just think they can win like that. But again, they had too many people that wanted to do too many different things. Their Sigma got no value. It was a fucking mess to watch. It's also worth mentioning that the lamp usage was pretty interesting here, and Myungbung's lamp got forced way earlier than Repel's, and even though it was like a mirror of windows and a bunch of ults started getting thrown, then it was a lot easier to clean up on Repel's end as opposed to Myungbung's. Moving on, Fuel were really like proactive about like choking out this Ryan Sigma comp, because again, you get no value on Sigma unless you have him at least poking a little bit, because his pre-fight poke, I think, is something that a lot of, especially in the off-tank position, not a lot of things have, and I think is really good and interesting to utilize, but it got completely fucked over in this case. And eventually, after the initial chokehold, Punk fluxes, gets a pretty big flux, but I mean, there's a Baptiste on the other team, so you're not really getting too much value out of that. But then Hanbin did something with a bomb, and it was interesting. But after the close hold, no one got any picks, nothing really happened except they both exchanged lamps, which is completely fine. So Fuel back up and are kind of staging to take another fight at the same corner that they did the first time, which again is completely fine. And all was going well in the neutral until Doha gets a really fucking big wall that catches Stan 1 and I'm 37, and Valentine was already in Doomfist. It was a perfect storm of shit stains on the Uprising's part. Then again, another close hold came out from the Fuel, just really choking out Uprising, and holy fuck, it was really simple to just sit in a choke and completely deny Uprising's value whatsoever. I really think, looking back on this, that again, this is another comp diff, because you can't look at a Sigma and a Doom and be like, okay, these can synergize, because they don't. They have two very different styles, and it's very obvious. And I don't want to sit and like hit the nail on the head too hard, but like, man, this is like absurd for how long they were like sticking to it and shit, but that's neither here nor there. Now moving on to Havana, and again, this is mostly centered towards wondering why Boston isn't doing so well, as opposed to why Fuel is all of a sudden doing better. So this is mostly notes centered around the Uprising, so if you're looking for something looking over the entire thing, I'm trying to sum it up to a T, sorta, kinda. If you want to watch it back, you can, but this is just the stuff that I saw. Finally, on Havana, fucking Uprising figured out how to wake up and actually played McCree, and, you know, fucking standard, and it was fucking so good to see. And it was like, I cannot express the amount of relief that I had when I saw that they were actually on the right fucking comp, but that's neither here nor there. So they go for a spawn hold, and the I guess interesting part is that Fuel scout it, and because they walked out at like 5 seconds or whatever, Fuel scout it almost instantly and swap Sparkle to Doomfist to kind of, I guess, cancel out how close they're playing. But ultimately, Fuel and Uprising keep trading bodies back and forth a ridiculous amount in the first fight, and it wasn't enough that Fuel got wiped and sent back to spawn, but it was also enough to where Uprising wasn't able to fully hold like 100% and like 100% actually take a fight as your, I guess, typical core, because they lost, I think it was Stan 1 and maybe I'm 37, or it's someone like that. They're all the fucking same. But what I thought was really fucking good about this first engagement was, after the Uprising backup, and this is, I guess, something for the Fuel people, I really have to give credit to Fuel, because they were really doing a really good job of setting up Hanbin and Sparkle for this really like educated kind of off angle, ready to engage on the Uprising as soon as they came out of the place that they were engaging from, bottom right, and all around looked like they would have had really good angles on them, is what I would have said if Boston didn't just fucking walk to point and like completely outpace Hanbin and fucking Sparkle. Holy shit, they just ran to fucking point so fast, and Hanbin and Sparkle couldn't react to shit. But what I thought was really interesting, actually, was that after a while, it was like the window, I believe, got committed by Myungbong, but even though they went to brawl the 5 people on cart and they didn't have Diva or Doomfist, they didn't get any picks, which I thought was really fucking weird. Like, I didn't understand that whatsoever. Anyways, moving on, after the fight gets a little, I guess, chaotic for a while, they being the Uprising, kind of start backing up a little bit and end up starting to get picked. And eventually, though, to, I guess, suppress the wounds that were coming out, I'm37 ends up trading with Sparkle, and overall, like, when it comes to the next fight and the next re-engage, it looks pretty even on both sides, is what I would have said. But Boston have 5 ults. Oh god. Fearless then gets shattered, solo May ulted, and immediately gets evaporated into the abyss. And I don't exactly know why this happened, but I think Faith got like really fucking happy that they got an opening pick and just aggressively beated for no real reason. But I mean, I also did talk about how you know, in my Faith review video, that Faith maybe isn't the best person at peeling, and maybe you would have already known this if you would have watched the video. You could watch the video. It's up on YouTube right now. It's not doing too well, man. I need a shit. Come on, please help me, please. Anyways, next fight, due to the Uprising's window and Sparkle borderline inting to really get his Doom ult off, meaning he literally did not hit a single fucking cooldown. The Fuel completely disengaged from the fight, as well as Sparkle's Doom ult. I'm37 got his high noons better on the corners and was there just in time to fucking ol yeller fucking Sparkle and take him out back right before the beat came through from Fielder. But after investing Beat, Window, Blizzard, and Shatter, Fuel eventually win this fight. For some reason, Uprising really wanted to recontest, and it did no good to them, really. Punk got killed really fucking late, and they just had no chance at really doing anything, but they still went for it anyway, which I thought was interesting, but that was pretty dumb. Next fight, Myungbong got really fucking hesitant on lamps and actually was so late that Stan 1 actually died before lamp even ceased to exist, let alone exist in the first place, and Stan 1 got picked extremely fucking early. But Uprising's supports, I guess, still wanted to fight it, so they double support ult, and the Fuel kite extremely well. And again, my little credit to the Fuel fans, that they did a very good job of kiting. And even though that Uprising's backline invested both support ults, they didn't really act like it. Like, I know they were down Stan 1, but they also didn't exactly like push or get very aggressive with any of their ultimates whatsoever, realistically. But eventually Stan 1 comes back and shatters Fearless and Doha, and Fearless pretty much gets incinerated early on, and then soon after, Sparkle and Stan 1 get traded out, and Window comes out for the Fuel. Valentine tried to drop the cart and got really overwhelmed eventually, and holy shit, the amount of staggered Uprising was at this point, and like the later point of second, was really unfortunate, especially because losing the May, they lose out rather on a lot of utility that they would normally have. Even though they don't have May, Uprising still try to brawl it out and use Noon and Bomb at the very beginning to recontest cart. Fielder then gets traded out for Punk, and Fuel try to set tempo and get super aggressive to really finish off the map hard. But Myeongbong's got a incredible lamp placement, at least for this point, that saves like 4 different people, and it was really fucking good overall. I really enjoyed looking at it. After 2 long ass minutes of really slugged out brawl fights, Stan 1 eventually hits a 3-man shatter and completely wipes the Fuel off and completes their defense. Also, like, Fuel kind of C9'd. Now for attack, the Uprising stuck to their guns and were still playing the same comp with Mei Cree. And then Fuel have done their weird double shield Genji Hanzo thing that they've been doing for a while. That's been very shaky in terms of how well it's done. Uprising were doing really good rotations, but at the same time they were very sluggish. They were very like late on doing the rotations, but they knew where to go, and when they got there or got in the position to go where they needed to go, I felt like they were really on top of it. Uprising eventually rotate to take the Fuel's high ground, which is where they started, and Myeongbong somehow miraculously got killed by Doha, and after a lot of waiting, fucking Sparkle runs it for no reason whatsoever and gets caught out. But he's been contesting cart for the majority of the thing, so for him to inevitably get punished, it's not very surprising in my eyes. Uprising wiped the first engagement on second point after investing window in both tank ults, and they make pretty quick work of the Fuel, to be honest. And after a split re-engage from the Fuel and rally, but also another dragon is used to split Uprising. But after window was the main turning point for Fuel as opposed to the Uprising here, in my opinion. But overall, this was a really clean and interesting but clean overall retake from the Fuel. And so with 2 minutes still in the bank, but not a single ult, they had to try and really make like ends meet with what they really had. And as soon as they were ready to really gather up the courage and the positioning to meet Fuel head on, Stan 1 gets picked. So Uprising walks away pretty fast. But after that, Uprising walked through bottom left and tried to flip map, but then get pretty much fluxed immediately, and Sparkle killed fucking I'm 37 with his own Deadeye. But at this point, it's looking like it's almost last fight, and Valentine gets picked first, which I was like looking at the time bank when I was initially looking at the VOD, and I'm like, there's no way they lose this. Just looking at the initial like 3 minutes 40 time bank, but it's not very surprising now. Last fight was really confusing though, because Stan 1 even hit a 3-man Earth Shatter, and Faith was able to get beat off to block, I believe it was Sparkle's Blade, but they didn't do anything. They didn't go anywhere, and I believe they just had someone else go and touch cart and just stall it, and the core just kind of stood still, which I thought was really weird, interesting, and pretty much any other nice way that I can say that it was dumb. Now moving on to Volskaya. Holy shit, I've done a lot of talking. I'm sorry, let me get back into it. Uprising played double bubble as opposed to the Fuel's 6-man dive, and I guess due to their lack of damage, because I'm 37 was on Kree instead of something like Ashe, Valentine just kind of dies. Like, really fucking fast, but he comes back Echo, so better character, it's fine. So Fuel tried to commit to a dive while Uprising are rotating high grounds, but since their core wasn't even like split at all, they literally just inted really fucking hard, especially out of LOS of their Moira instantaneously, and completely fucked themselves over. And I mean, it was just a really messy fight, bro. But after this, an early hack comes out onto stand 1, and he gets immediately fucking pummeled. It was very fast, but that pretty much immediately opens the floodgates to Fuel diving pretty much whatever they want and winning first point. Fuel then open up second point with Cole, EMP, and Primal pretty much immediately after they nanoed Valentine to poke at all of them, which was a very interesting trade in my eyes, but it is what it is, I guess. But unfortunately, Fuel actually ended up kind of wasting both Reaper ult and Beat, and just due to 2 CP spawns, they got out-resourced by the Uprising, and they take control back. But do not be like confused that that last fight went for a lot longer than I made it seem, because by the time that they go right back to recontest or try to retake the point again, being Fuel, a 5-man EMP comes out and another Cole comes out. And now the attack for Uprising, which I thought was going to be horrendous, and I was completely ready to like destroy my mental from watching it, but it actually was really good on their initial attack. So Sparkle gets fucking shit on by Valentine in the Tracer 1v1, and I mean, I've always said this for a while, and this is just a little branch off, but I don't think Sparkle is necessarily good at Tracer. I think Sparkle is good at marking other Tracers, though. So that's kind of my thoughts on him. But anyways, moving on. Right after the initial engage happens and Sparkle gets shit on, the Uprising just kind of wipe due to how much like lack of damage they have. They also have a 6-minute time bank at this point, which is something that I was definitely not expecting, to I guess say the least. But after a pulse bomb onto Jexay, they forced Nano out through that, as well as Uprising just kind of pour more resources and more ults into the Fuel and just kind of like fan the flames, I guess to be said, because like the Nano onto Jexay got nearly no value because I believe Hanbin honestly just fucking bubbled the pulse, so Nano was literally just not needed whatsoever. Slowly but surely though, Uprising completely take over second point, even with Hanbin and Doha getting I think a 2-piece, but ultimately they finally cap second with 4 minutes and 15 seconds, doubling the Fuels. Now for the second defense, Uprising really just play so far back and let Fuel pretty much walk into them instantly and fall over so fast. And I mean, they carry that energy right onto second point, opening with Nano Primal and just pouring in as I mean, kind of the same way that Uprising did, just poured the rest of their ults in, and before you knew it, the attack was over. But I think, to be fair, it was a lot less on Boston being bad and more on Fuel being better for that exact fight. Just to, I guess, kind of preface that. And now for the very last round of attack. So after a body shot and or a body shot, I guess, from I'm 37 and Myungbong, Doha died literally 2 seconds into the fucking round, which is incredible to me, and I thought it was the funniest shit ever. But Doha then comes back on Sombra, and I think I actually got there at a pretty decent time without having to lose too much time. Even though he was, you know, gonna come back on Echo, he still comes back with a very confident pick as well. and the fuels tanks just get evaporated as soon as he even like turns a corner and starts being able to farm. Is very unlucky for them. And with that, Uprising take first point fairly easily, but second point starts out with a Nano Monkey from both teams, both getting picks, and both teams kind of just mutually chilling the fuck out. Uprising use Rally and Primal to get aggressive, but then get punished very, very quickly by the DPS ults, and they get any like semblance of momentum that they once had pretty much completely put to a halt. Then after a failed Grav Pulse attempt and a Grav Monkey coming out from the, or a Grav Nano Monkey rather, coming out from the fuel, the Uprising's time blink was really starting to dwindle. And finally, with 45 seconds on the clock and a Nano Monkey in Uprising's pocket, they got EMP'd and got fucking evaporated instantly. It was fucking brutal. Holy shit. But then they just pretty much got super staggered and nothing even really happened after the 4 ults that Uprising used, which I can only really chalk up to being unlucky. So with that all summed up, I had a little bit of a thing talking about what I at least thought in my eyes were the biggest overall problems that I saw, and more of the consistencies that I saw coming out from these notes and what I saw. And I think the biggest problems that I saw was composition knowledge and adaptability, the very slow pace that they play at, as well as the consistency that they play at overall, where it's hard to say this solidly, but like in terms of the, I guess I can go one by one and justify all these, but with the composition knowledge and adaptability, that spoke a lot to Nepal on just in terms of not really knowing how to adapt to seeing another team just playing Brawl, and instead like keeping your inherently worse comp that has had no chance of working out of the gate. The slow pace more resembles the Havana, where there were a lot of times where there were really key moments that they could have got aggressive, and main ones that call out to me are the very last fight and the fight where I believe Uprising used 2 support ults and still weren't really trying to make any ground, or weren't able to make up any ground with it, which I think overall is like, how do you not at least push that advantage? Which I think that was a lot, but I mean, it was also kind of shown a lot on my Faith review, which again, I can, I guess, put a little link thingy. Sorry for the plug. But in terms of overall consistency, it's not like they weren't playing good the whole time. It was more of like, well, actually that was it. They weren't playing good the whole time. They just had really like sharp peaks of like, holy fuck, this team is like really good at, and like could immediately fucking wipe some of these other teams. And we also saw that, and sorry to get a little off topic, but in the Washington game that they played today, or yesterday, I guess. Fuck days, man. But anyways, those are mostly my opinions of why Uprising has, I guess, kind of stagnated and gone very downhill, as opposed to where everyone thought they were going to be, with I guess just in general, everyone thinking they were going to be more of a, in some cases, like top 10, even top 7 team in some cases, which overall I do still think that they're very underrated individually. I do think they have a lot of talent on this roster, but you can't expect magic to happen this fast, especially because now they have to adapt to not having Soon, to who in my opinion was gonna play your Sombra, your flankers, which is also something that I was having a pretty big problem with watching this over. But anyways, I think that's gonna be it for the video. I appreciate the fuck out of all of you. I never ask for this shit, but if you would actually like the video, I worked really hard on this script. I didn't really want to fully go on script, which is why you see me kind of sometimes know exactly what I'm gonna say, and then other times just branch off and just say like a whole bunch and make a bunch of dumb comments. But I really tried to take a whole lot of time and analyze some of this game stuff, which this takes a lot of time to do. So anything helps. I appreciate the fuck out of all of you. But ultimately, that's going to be it. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's just @Demented. I pretty much only tweet whenever I upload, so feel free to follow me on there. And with that being said, again, one last time, I appreciate the fuck out of all of you. And I will see you when I see you. Later.